Hi, welcome to my podcast. Today I want to kind of talk about storms. I remember once going to Cape Coast on a 3 day trip, and we were hanging out with this young man who came from a family of fisher folk. His stepfather was a fisherman, the kind who would go to sea for like 2 weeks before they come home. And he was telling us firstly, how he learned how to paddle a canoe. His uncle took him deep and told him to look at something and then jumped in the water. And by the time he turned around, his uncle was swimming back to shore and he was in a canoe by himself. He was a little boy. But that's how he learned how to paddle a canoe. And so he was offering this amazing service in Elmina where he was taking tourists on boat trips. And his advantage was that obviously he was educated, he had a business degree from the University of Cape Coast, but he also understood what it was like to be a fisherman because it was part of his family line of work. But one thing he said to me that I thought was interesting, because it was a particularly difficult trip for me, I was having some issues with my team. He was talking about when there's a storm on the sea. And I've talked to fishermen before, and they give you an idea of what they face when they get out there in that deep place. As they say, where there's no tree to hold on to, there's just nothing but you and God. So he said to me, when there's a storm, you have to be still in the boat. Because if you try and make any movements, you will get lost. And what will happen is by the time the storm clears, you will not find your way back to the shore. And I always believe that in life, sometimes people say things that they're talking in the moment, but God positions that information in a way that is very relevant to something that you may be experiencing at the time. Or God uses it as an affirmation or confirmation of something He's trying to get you to do or something He's trying to tell you. And that particular year and the year before, I was going through a storm. And if somebody had said to me that I would say one day that thank God for the storms, I would have said, nah, why would I say who thanks God for storms? But I think what I've realized in my journey as Jonah must have discovered when he was spat on the shore of Nineveh and went and did what he needed to do, that what the storm does is it allows you to understand that God is the only steady source of strength. Because people will let you down. People are people. It doesn't matter how close you are, how much you love them. People change. People are weak. People have their own issues. And so sometimes when we rely too much on people, the storms come also to clear out those who will not stand with you, but also when the storm clears, you understand that through that whole process, God never left. Like how people will leave if things don't get very comfortable. People leave their wives or their husbands because they are not well or because they don't have money. But whether you're well, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, so long as you want God in your life, He stays there. He's steady. He's always there. And so for me, I find that storms, in as much as they're not fun, they grow you. And by the time you've come out, the way is clearer. And sometimes you may actually be going in the wrong direction. And it takes that storm to sort of almost redirect your path or your boat and land you exactly where you're supposed to land. So I hope that this helps us to think about challenges in life a little differently and to see them as a growth spurt. Being a mom, I know that sometimes when my daughter, when she was little, she'd have like a fever and she'd not be well for a few days, and you give them the antibiotics and the painkillers, and then when they're well, they're taller. And you're thinking, you weren't this tall when, like 5 days ago. So storms are growth spurts for our spirit. It helps us to become better people. And what it also does is it gives us empathy. Like I feel like when you've gone through something, you are better able to feel empathy for other people. I mean, I always say if you haven't lost a parent, and your friend loses a parent, it's very, you can't say I know how you feel, because you don't. So what storms do also is they make us softer inside. Because you've been through it, you are more appreciative, you're more sympathetic when you meet people who are going through a storm that you've gone through. And what the storm also does is it gives you a body of experience that you are able to help somebody who's going through something similar to learn that when there's a storm, you need to just stay still. And at the end of the storm, God will help you see your way clear.
You know I run back home.